Kumlen in a black Gemara. We are in Masechta Beitza Daf Lamed Hey Amud Aleph towards the end of Perek HaMevi, maybe Kadayayin. And basically, we had Rav Nachman made a statement where he said that when it comes to Meiser, you're allowed to eat Kolzman. You haven't brought into your house, you're allowed to have a snack, but you're not allowed to have a permanent meal. But if you bring it into your chutzner, that already makes it kaveh, and therefore you can no longer have a snack. But that then only applies if the fruits or vegetables are 100% ready. But if it's not gemar malach, it's not 100% ready, then it's not kaveh. And the question we had was regarding Shabbos. You know, when Shabbos comes in, everything in Shabbos is chashiv. Is it kaveh even something which is not gemar malacha? And Rav Nachman said definitely it is, because that's the halacha where he passed down. His son Mazutra was trying to prove it from our Mishnah, because our Mishnah stresses that in Shemitah year, if you said you're going to eat from here, you're allowed to eat on Shabbos. Seems like all other years you cannot, and why not? Because Shabbos is kaveh, and you cannot even have a snack, and because you have to give ma'aser even for a snack. So we see Shabbos is kaveh. And the Gemara wanted to say there's no proof, because maybe it wasn't the fact that it's Shabbos, it's kaveh, maybe because he said from here I want to eat, so therefore that was the problem. So that is what's kaveh. It's his dibur that's kaveh, not the Shabbos itself. Then we said it cannot be the dibur because Rabbi Lezer holds that if you put it back, then it's not really whatever you put back is not kaveh, and dibur nothing really happens, so surely cannot be kaveh. So we concluded that you're right from Rabbi Lezer, and then we said that's not a question, because here we're talking about a case where you cannot put it back. It could be somebody is tummy, and the reason why you're right. Our Mishnah does seem to say that Shabbos is kaveh, but that only goes according to Rabbi Lezer, holds that even truma, if something was not gemar malach, it wasn't ready. Our Mishnah is talking about muktzah. Muktzah means it's not really ready yet. Set aside. If you gave truma for something that's not ready, you have to give ma'aser as well. But we're asking a question according to Chachamim. So the Gemara continues. Okay, I'll prove it to you according to Chachamim as well. So the Gemara, we're in the middle of Amud Hey Amud Aleph, and the Gemara is Toshma, right in the middle of the page. Toshma, come, I'll bring you a proof, Meseifa, for the Sefer. It says the Chachamim, the only thing Chachamim argue with Rabbi Lezer about is Rabbi Lezer says you can say from the general area I'm going to take tomorrow, and he believes in the principle of yesh braid or whatever you choose, that's what you meant. The Chachamim say no, you have to designate exactly at Yirshim and you mark off the yom and you say mikan ve'at kat. That's the only thing they argue about is braid. Everything else they agree. So the Rabbanan agree with Rabbi Lezer, and that the rest of the other years you're not allowed to eat from it because it seems that Shabbos is kaveh, and therefore that is a proof to Rab Nachman. And you can't tell me Rabbanan al Shittasei, because they actually hold that if you give truma for something which is not ready yet, you don't have to give the ma'aser yet. And here we're talking about truma that's not ready, and yet they say only in the year Shemitah when there is no obligation of ma'aser. It seems like those other years we have an issue. Time that is Shabbos B'Shvit. The only reason why this is valid is because this is a year Shemitah, the Lav Baras there's no ma'aser. For all other years, the Bnei Asur know that they did give ma'aser. It's asur. My time, why is it asur all the years? Because obviously, my time, the Shabbos covers. As soon as you have Shabbos is kaveh, and therefore it makes it permanent, even though it's not gemar malacha, and therefore you cannot even have a snack of it on Shabbos if you didn't give ma'aser of it prior. So this proves my father's point, that even not gemar malacha Shabbos is kaveh. And we're no, maybe it's not that. Maybe it's the word shiny hustle because he said clearly, I plan to eat this tomorrow. That's what's kaveh, and therefore you cannot have a snack. It's not the Shabbos itself. He says, well, if that's the case, then why talk about Shabbos? Shabbos. Why is this even discussed? It's just a beya. Talking about the laws of ma'aser. Don't do Shabbos, and even in the weekday. If it's during the 6th year when you have to give ma'aser, if you say I'm going to eat from there, you're kaveh, and therefore you cannot have a snack anymore. Saying, no, that's not a question. Because how kamashlam that agav we are learning something else over here. The tevel muchen hu eitzel Shabbos. That we have a concept called muktzah. If something was forbidden at the beginning of Shabbos, forbidden the rest of Shabbos. So you cannot give ma'aser on Shabbos. So therefore, you would think that automatically it's muktzah on Shabbos. And he says no. It's not an issue of muktzah on Shabbos. The issue over here is something else. The issue over here is whether there's ma'aser or not. And because on Shabbos, with the Rabbanan, you're not allowed to give ma'aser. But Mahatayla, you could. So if you did, it would be a valid ma'aser. So it's not muktzah before Shabbos either. She'im ava v'tikna masukna, it does work. So there's no raya for the Mishnah. So there's no right from the Mishnah. So therefore, we could say from our Mishnah, it seems that Shabbos is Kaveya supports Rav Nachman, from the Rabban at least. Second, what I mean, I'll ask you a question. If a guy was in the middle of eating a grape, eating a snack, you're chewing on grapes. And grapes, usually, they want the juice out of it, so therefore it's not Gemar Melocha. And the nichnis megin lachatz, walked in from his garden into the courtyard. The question is, will the courtyard be kaveya over here? If it's not kamar malacha, it's not yet completed. Rabbi Lezer, you can continue eating. Why? Because it's not kaveya, it's a snack. You can continue eating. Because just like a chatzah is as we'll see in a minute. So it's not a problem to continue eating it. Why? Because chutz is not keveya if it's not completed in the malacha, and this is not completed malacha because you still want to tread on it, and you want to turn it into wine. Rabbi Shua says layigma. Rabbi Shua says you cannot continue eating it because he holds a chutz is keveya even though it's not gemar malacha. What about the next case? What about Chashbul Shabbat? You're eating Friday into Shabbos, and suddenly Shabbos. Rabbi Lezer says yigmar. You can continue eating it. Rabbi Lezer yigmar. You continue eating it because he says it's the same thing like a chutzah. A Shabbos is not keveya if it's not gemar melocha. Rabbi Shua says lo yigmar. Should you finish? Why? Because Shabbos is keveya when you're not gemar melocha. So it's clear. Rabbi Shua holds, and I look at Rabbi Shua that Shabbos is keveya if it's not gemar melocha. So Gemara Hasa Kilitoni timer. Over there, we learned already the reason why it's not keveya. Because the problem, what's that problem? How are you going to snapshot in our Mishnah? Rabbi Lezer in our Mishnah says that all the other years you're not allowed to eat, and it cannot be because your dibur was kaveya. Because remember, Rabbi Lezer says if you put it back, it's not kaveya. It must be Shabbos. But Rabbi Lezer here clearly says that Shabbos is not kaveya. It's like Gemar Melacha. So how do we understand our Mishnah? Why talk about the Shemitah year? Any Shabbos, Shabbos is not kaveya like Gemar Melacha, and you can continue eating you can eat a snack. Says the Gemara, Hasam Kilatani time. We learned reason. Rabbi Lezer says. Like when Rabbi Lezer says yigmar, he didn't mean the chatzah yigmar. He didn't mean that you should actually continue eating the chatzah, because in the chatzah itself it is kaveya, and therefore you cannot have a snack. What he meant was that the kviyas of the chatzah is only while you're in the chatzah. But when you leave the chatzah, you can continue eating it again. And the same thing is when he said that you can continue, it didn't mean on Shabbos itself you can continue. Shabbos is kaveya, even if it's not gemar malacha, even according to Rabbi Lezer. What he meant is it's not fixed for after Shabbos. Shabbos, you can wait till after Shabbos and then continue eating it. In other words, it is kaveya just for Shabbos. We had before when kids were hiding it, that even after Shabbos you cannot eat from it because they deliberately set it aside. Here we're talking about the guy has to be eating it, and it rolled into Shabbos. There's nothing deliberate here. So Shabbos is automatically kaveya, regardless if you had intention or not. You cannot have any snacks on Shabbos because of kaveya, but for post Shabbos, it's no longer kaveya, unless you specifically wanted it to, that it should. So Gemara now continues. Ki also Ravi. Ravi came along to the Yochanan. Echad Shabbos, 4 cases. Shabbos has that power. The Echad Truma has that power. The Echad Chotzer has that power. The Echad Mekacha, when you sell something to your friend. But in all of these cases, if it was not yet finally, the food item was not yet completed, all of these 4 items ain't koivin ella b'davar shenichol nigmal. I say it's not kaveya unless it's gemar malacha. Unless it's gemar malacha. Now the Gemara explains. Shabbos, the case of Shabbos. Why does he mention Shabbos? It's not kaveya. So no, it's not like a. Why did he say that Shabbos is not is not kaveya? Why is the Shabbos not kaveya? Because la'afuke. This is to negate the opinion of Hillel. This is to negate the opinion of Hillel. The halach is not like Hillel, but like the Rabbanon. What's the story? Tani will the Braisa. Amir Pedis. Someone gathers his fruits from one place to another, litzet to harvest, and suddenly the kiddush alayim, it became Shabbos. Hillel says that it's usher. Hillel personally holds that it's usher. Shabbos automatically comes in and is kaveya. But nobody else agrees with it. Next case is Chatzah. Why does it say Chatzah is not kaveya if it's not gemar malacha? Who holds that it is? La Fukim and Rabbi Yaakov. This comes to negate the view of Rabbi Yaakov. Rabbi Yaakov holds that a chutz is mechayiv, even if it's not gemar malacha. But halacha is not like what's the story? Now we learn hamavit to einim bechatzed. If somebody transports things through his courtyard, like katza is in order to dry. So in other words, it's not yet completed. But the base of continue eating it a snack. We'll put him in a maisa, that potter for maisa, because this like mamalacha chutz is not kaveya. The Tanya alone, we learned on this. Rabbi Yaakov mechayiv. Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda point of Yaakov said, no, you're chayiv. Even though it's like mamalacha, you bring it to your courtyard, you now have to give maisa, you can no longer have a snack. Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda says potter because it's like mamalacha. And the halacha like Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda. Truma, what's the third thing he mentioned? Truma, what's that all about? We already had before the Gemara as well. If somebody gave truma from the crop before it was ripe, now do you have to give mais or not? Did you make it chashuv enough? Is that called kaviyas or not? Lafukim mit Rabbi Lezer. This comes from the gate of Rabbi Lezer. Now we learned in the Mishnah Rabbi Lezer paid that you gave truma actually and before you was right you gave truma. Rabbi Lezer said you know you can even a snack, and the chacham allow it. Mekach. So in other words, again, so it's not kaveya if it's not mamlach. What's the story with Mekach? Mekach buying. Now we learned in the Mishnah halakeyach te'enim ma'ama oret. If you buy figs from Lama Oret, b'makom sherei bnei adam does, in a place where most people are not going to eat it the way it is, they are going to step on it and trim it, which means that it's not gemar malach. Oichel mehen arai. You can eat from it a snack, because even though you sold it, the selling itself is not kaveyed if it's not gemar malacha. And you gave mice. Sorry. So what you do is you can eat from a snack, and then when you give mice, you should know your mice is only the mai. The mai means there's a good possibility that mice was taken from this already by the Amoritz, but because I'm not sure, I will do a Masala Suffolk. I will give mice, and anybody who buys from Amoritz, you have to give mice. Truma, you don't have to, because Amoritz definitely gave truma. We're not chosh them, but mice. We're chosh to give mice, but most Amoritz do give mice, so it's only the mai. And the chiddush here is that this Tana holds that Amoritz, even though we have to worry that maybe the mice, some of them or many of them, give mice even before they have to. That's how from they are. Says the Gemara, Shmam, three different from Shmam. First of all, Mekach eine kevas. Maybe we see that buying and selling doesn't make it chashuv enough that it's kaveya if it's not fully ripe. Only if it's ripe. Then you say when you bought it, that in itself is kaveya. Shmam. The second thing we learn out from here is Reiv Amoritz Masne. In majority, we're not to give mice because we say that the whole mice you're giving is only to mai. Mai means dom mai. What is this? It's like a question mark. It's only a chumrah. And the third thing is that even something which is incomplete, when we give mice, it's only the mice because Amaratza might have given early. It's like a dichotomy here. On one hand, we say Amaratza maybe they'll give mice. On the other hand, we say so from they give mice even before you have to. This would have Yechon said that if you're buying and selling, it doesn't fix it yet, but it's not a kaveh, if it's not complete, he comes to tell you to negate there's somebody, hold that is complete. Now we look at the Mishnah, Hamachli paid this if somebody swaps like barters, fruits against fruits. In other words, this is like a sale. Both of them are ready to be eaten. Zelikatza, both of them are ready to be dried, which means they're both incomplete. Or one of them wants to buy the fig, let's say to eat, the other one wants to buy it to dry. Chayiv. In all these cases, you're chayiv straight away to give true ma'isa. You're not going to snack anymore because the sale itself makes it chashuv. Rabbi Yehuda says, Lechel chayiv. Rabbi Yehuda says, the one who wants to eat is chayiv. Abelakatzis, the one who bought it to dry, so it's a double ingma malachte, then the sale itself does not make a chashuv. Potter is potter. Hadin alocha maybe. Mishnah. Mashilin peides derech aruba beyanta. They used to put their fruits on the roof to dry, or their wheat or anything else to dry, or barley. And then they saw that the rain is about to come in. So we allow them to drop the wheat and barley through the skylight into the house. And they land on the ground. Because there's no big tiche. All you do is stand on the roof and you're pushing it down through through the skylight, and it falls right down. But if, let's say, you have a wall appearing, let's say on one side of your roof, you have a wall next door to a house higher than you, and there's a window there that you can throw through the window. You have to know you have to lift the wheat and barley and pick it up, put it through the window of land. That you cannot do. That's an extra ticha. Even though it's involving a monetary loss, we don't allow that. So Mashilin paid it there, we allow you to do that. But Avalei b'Shabbos, we don't allow you to do this on Shabbos. Number one. Number two, umechasim peides bakalim. Let's say you cannot bring the fruits down, or maybe because there's no skylight, or you cannot bring the fruits for whatever reason, and the rain's about to come in. You're allowed to cover the fruits with a garment or something to protect the fruits from the rain. And we don't say, oh, it's a tircha with there's no benefit to Yom Tov. The Rabbanan saw that if you're about to lose money, people behave irrationally, so therefore we make some allowances. Delph is rain. Likewise, and so too we have barrels of wine, barrels of oil. You can cover Shabbos. Let's say you have rain that's dripping from your roof into your house. You're allowed to put empty pots and pans to collect the water so it shouldn't ruin the rest of your house. And especially in those days, the floor was dirt. It was just dirt. Imagine if the rain would come in, the whole house would be full of mud. We learned of Yehuda Nasan. We learned of Yehuda Nasan. First, we're going to talk about the word, just the word mashilin, which means to lower. The Gemara say there's a number of other words the Mishnah could have used. Yehuda Nasan, Tani Mashilin. One of them, Pshat in Mishnah, the word is mashilin. Tani mashilin, but they both mean the same thing. I'm a mazut and Tani Mashilin. What's a mashilin? Let me start not making an error. Tani Mashilin. Let me start both. I'm not making an error. Tani Mashilin. Let me start mashilin is not making an error. Just see what it says in pasuk. Ki yisha zezecha, your olives will fall down before they mature. So we see the word yisha means to fall down, which is what we're doing, throwing down the fruits through your skylight. One use the word mashchil, let me not make mistakes. Now we learn hashacha, talk about an animal there, we're talking about which kind of what's considered a defect. Hashacha, and we'll explain to me what that is. What's shacha? Shenishmata yerech, that the thigh slipped out of its socket. So we see again that shachal also means fell down. And kosel means that one aver is larger than another, and one thigh is higher up than the other one. So, but what's even here, shachal is also the correct word to use for dropping. In fact, the other words as well we could have used. The word mashidin also means to drop. Or mandatory mashidin. If you use the word mashidin, also I'm making an error. Mandatory mashidin. Let me say mandatory mashidin. It's not be learned. So you have four different words in it. We have mashidin, mashidin, manshidin. And the Gemara now explains. The one says three with one. The one says shouldn't scrub his hair. Maybe he's not allowed to pull any hair out, so he shouldn't cut his hair. Shouldn't go ahead and wash his head and scrub his head with adama with dirt. And it causes the hair to fall out. Here we see clearly the word meisha means to fall out, to fall down, which is another word you could have used for fruits coming through the skylight. Usually mashchim means to be black, but here also can be lemishtapish, not making error, could also be dropping. It's not we learned. Hashachar, the hazoik shel saporim. It says here that a razor, which causes the hair to fall out, and the scissor from the barbers, afa pishanechu, even though they might be made of two parts and they split, they're still coming because each part of it can still be used on its own. So we see again that shachar means to drop. Umanda man shidin let's not make mistakes. Now we learned mishin nosher kela b'mayim. Somebody's raincoat or coat or whatever it is or clothes fell into the water. Mahalach b'hem, you can put them on, walk with them. Einu chayshish, and we are not worried that people are going to assume that you're laundering on Shabbos. So we see clearly the word nosher means to fall down as well. So five different words saying the same thing. Inami or. Now we learned Ezel leket hanoisha that falls down, but the only way you have things. We see the word noisha means falling down. Then they want to continue. Tonight we learned you're allowed to drop these fruits through the skylight beyond the yontiv. But kama, is there a limit how many fruits you can take down? Like we learned. We learned in Masechta Shabbos when we allow you to save certain things in your house. And we learned there's a limit there as well. And we say Mefanin, you're allowed to clear out arba the chomesh kupa shel teven, 4 or 5 depending on the size, boxes of straw b'shel tvua or tvua. Why do we make such allowance? It's a big tircha. Because ha'orchim, you have guests that you invited and they have nowhere to sit. You want to make chairs. For the Talmidim, they have nowhere to sit. So you're allowed to bring out 4 or 5 chairs. So the same thing we want to say over here also. That's considered a nominal amount. Says the Gemara, you comparing Our case, in the case of Shabbos, I can argue two different ways. Bedilma, I can argue on the one hand, Shabbos is different. The Ika Baker is Medish. Maybe we made such a big allowance because kids won't be able to study in yeshiva, or you're having guests at home. It's a mitzvah chazarchim. I will hoch the leg bit to base measure. We're talking about your personal monetary gain. So who said we made such a large allowance? Line up. Or inami, or some kind of time. Another reason the Arba Chamish would allow you make such a big allowance from Shabbos, the Chamidi, because Shabbos is Chamid. So people will not take make any of their own allowances, so therefore we allow that. But like if we allow them to take 4 or 5 things, they won't take advantage and they will not treat Shabbos any differently. I will Yom Tov the kill. Yom Tov people treat it a lot easier because you're allowed to cook and all that. But give them too much of an allowance, they'll treat it very lightly. They'll think, it's only Yom Tov anyway. Maybe we don't even give an allowance. So therefore, you cannot draw parallels. I can argue Pumfaket. I can argue the other way around. Some kind of time, but why we're limited to 4 or 5, the lek have some and there's no monetary loss involved. Have some here we're talking about a monetary loss, even more as well. Maybe we allow. So as more further, another question we have. We looked over there. When you're clearing out your warehouse that to bring in these boxes, don't clear out completely that the floor is exposed, because then you might level the floor out. Much more. What do you mean? What do you mean? And not the warehouse? Do not clear it out. Let's say all you have is 4 or 5 boxes, then we don't allow you to clear all 4 or 5 boxes out. Why? Because then the floor is exposed, and you might notice some kind of holes there, or the ground isn't level, and you will inadvertently level the ground. Dilma, you might level the ground. What about over here? Do we also have a limit here? Not when it comes to the roof. Do we say we don't want the roof exposed? So the question is as follows. Shabbos, over there, Shabbos, the Asr is forbidden. Why Shabbos can't you clear out the floor? Because if you did level the ground, it could be high skill of that. So there's a big aver. I will hoch over here, Yom Tov the kill, over here, Yom Tov. Anyway, even if he did the very, it's not high skill. So Shabbat dummy, we're not going to be so worried. Ideal more, perhaps, Hasam Dika may forget. Over there, Madach over there, the equal big base and measures that we're worried about people not having a seat to sit in base and measures and learn Amid, yet you say, Loy, I don't care. We're not going to allow you to clear the floor. Here we're talking about monetary gain. There's no question of learning trader. Then Lakoshke, surely we should not allow him to clear the entire roof. Should leave something on the roof, because you might notice it's not level and try to flatten it out. Here we learned Mashilin. Here we learned that you can lower the fruits. This is question number 3. Here we learn you're allowed to lower through the skylight on Yom Tov. Only that very roof where it's lying. You cannot ferry it across to another roof and drop it through that skylight. That's already involved too much of a tirch. Even though it's raining, we make a special sensation allowed to clear. It's only in its own roof, not in the next one. The Tanya, you're not allowed to go from one roof to the next roof. Even they're both on par of the same level, nevertheless, 2 different houses and they're the same height. We don't want you, because that's already considered an extra tirch. Hasam mai over there. What would be the din? On Shabbos, let's say. Over here, why can't you go to the next roof? Mishum Yom Tov, because it's Yom Tov the kill, because Yom Tov is lenient, but if we allow you to go from one roof to the next roof, you can start taking other allowances, because you can start treating the whole thing more lightly. So we want to be very strict. We only limit it to your roof. Avos Shabbos, come to Shabbos, allowing you to bring those barrels of Chamid. Shabbos is people generally treat Shabbos much stricter. They will not treat it lightly. Shabbos, I mean, it's all right. We can say, over here, Yom Tov, Ika hefset payers, we were worried about a monetary loss, which is so great. And yet you say, no, you cannot bring it to the next roof. Hasam the lek hefset payers over there, where there's no hefset payers involved at all, no monetary loss. Bring in only a few seats for guests of learning. Like Koshkin, surely you shouldn't do it. Question number 4. It says over here, let's say you don't have a skylight, you only have windows all around, you have walls around your roof, other people's houses, or walls, or even your own house, and you have a window there that takes you into the courtyard through that or into your house. So you're not supposed to drop it down in sacks through this window with a rope, because that's an extra tircha, because you have to lift it from the roof to get to that window, that cavity, to drop it down. Like we said in the Mishnah. So lo yishal shalom bechevel b'chaloina. Don't drop them with the rope through the windows. Lo yodin sumas. Do not drop them via ladders or steps, whatever it is, because you have to lift it, and that you can't do. So Hasamai over there, Shabbos, what would it be regarding those 4 or 5 boxes? Can you lift it out through a window to be able to bring it over to the shul or to a eating? So here Yom Tov also like a bit of medrash. We're not talking about a mitzvah here. Therefore, we're strict looking. It's an extra tircha, not necessary. Shabbos, the issue here is, do we have enough chairs for everyone to sit down in the base of medrash? Shabbos, I mean, you're allowed to even lift it and have that extra tircha. Or can argue, the Ika have to pay it here with a monetary loss. Yet Amrit law, you tell me no, we will not allow you to lift it, to put it through a window to save your fruits. Hasam the Leka have to pay this there, but there's no monetary loss at all. And like Koshka, surely we tell you there's a limit to what we allow you to, to bring those boxes to the shul or to your dining room. Teku remain with the question. Question is, what's greater, a mitzvah or a monetary loss? What would the Chum more concerned with? Okay, we'll stop here. Tomorrow's